Hi guys, Vincent here, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be looking at the new stories that have been released for the 60th anniversary by Russell T Davies, starting with the first in the trilogy, though sort of quadrilogy, with the addition of the Church and Ruby Road with the Star Beast. Now, for those who don't know, the Star Beast was created as a comic book originally, which I own this reprint of it, the Star Beast, that was released as sort of an addition to the Doctor Who magazine of the month for when this came out in November. And yeah, we'll look this, and then as weeks go on I will review all of those. But before we get into it properly, if you want to consider subscribing, that would really help me out. But yeah, well, let's get into the video. So, first sort of overview of the story. It sort of takes place more or less directly, pseudo-directly, after Power of the Doctor. There's the Children Need Special, with the Daleks story, sort of like the creation of the Daleks one, and I think it sort of takes place on from that. David Tennant's newly regenerated Doctor lands in London by most accounts, and has sort of then fallen into Donna and Jeff Noble, the new character Rose, who's sort of basically thrown back into his own era. I mean, crazy enough that Russell T Davies has put himself back in his own era, but there you are. So it sort of then follows them, and it's David Tennant trying to figure out what the spaceship that comes past, and he's trying to figure out what the spaceship does, whilst also trying to avoid Donna Noble as best as possible, as he's managed to go into her, and they've picked up where they've left off at the end of Series 4, which, for those who don't know, is when Donna has her memory wiped, because otherwise she'll die, basically, because she's got the brain of a Time Lord inside of her. So the Doctor kind of waddles around. He meets some new characters. He meets the new unit's scientific advisor, who's played by Ruth Madeley, who she's known for some other things, though has also recently, if you follow the Big Finish stuff, been part of the Doctor Who's Colin Baker adventures at the moment, the Unbound series with Waterworld, Purity Unbound, Purity Unleashed, which I must admit I haven't listened to yet, but she plays Kahibi in that, and then she's then recently been brought over to do this as the sort of scientific advisor, and she then reappears in the Giggle, which is the final of the Tennant stuff, and she seemed by the trailer for Series 1 or Series 14, if you're following the kind of chronological order of the new series, she seems like she'll crop up in that alongside characters who were introduced later on in the Giggle and characters who are brought back, like Kate Stewart later on. He sort of goes on, and then we meet the kind of main sort of character with Rose, cutting back to Rose, the daughter of Donna in the story, and we meet the Meep, who doesn't look like that. That is the kind of original Meep, but I'll try and maybe flash something on the screen here to suggest show you what the Meep actually looks like. And then they have that whole back and forth. There's an alien race, which, if this sort of look to them, they're sort of like alien creatures. I can't exactly remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they come in, and then it's this whole sort of, they're coming in and they're fighting the unit, who have since then been investigating the spaceship after the 14th Doctor has left, and they've sort of been they've had some sort of mind control on them, kind of, to then fight these monsters. And then eventually the 14th Doctor, who's now come back to Rose and Donna and Sylvia Noble, Donna's mum, and Jeff Noble, Donna's husband, alongside the Meep, who also just happens to be in Donna's house, because story progression and stuff. They've managed to sort of scurry away, and they've got away from these aliens. But then the Doctor notices something sort of strange about them, which is that they're not trying to kill the unit soldiers. They're merely just trying to stun them, knock them, incapacitate them. And he does the sort of David Tennant style, going to call a meeting, a la Stones of Blood. If you watch the third part of The Kid's Time, Stones of Blood, very much Tom Baker trial sort of thing. Though in this trial it's a lot easier. The aliens plead their case, saying that the Meep is some killer from another world, and the Meep, who is wonderfully played by Miriam Margolyes, if any of you people know who that is, plays Professor Sprout in Harry Potter, among other roles and stuff. She then basically does the Jiggers Up style thing and just murders them on the spot, which, pretty crazy. Anyway, this culminates in the Meep making their way back to the spaceship, which then leads to the final kind of act of the story, where the Doctor has to stop the spaceship from taking off, otherwise it would destroy Earth, and in the process Donna sort of has to is becoming more aware of the Doctor, and eventually becomes fully aware of the Doctor and fully aware of basically Series 4. She remembers Series 4 and all of the adventures they've been on, and at which point she helps to save the day, and then she dies, but not for long, because they explain in the story that since having Rose, Donna has now transferred some of the Doctor's Time Lord brain into Rose, and when Donna's is activated, Rose's is activated, so Donna doesn't die straight away. However, this then leads to the climax of the story, where Rose and Donna just let the memories or the knowledge leave, which is quite questionable if you ask me. So yeah, that's quite quick. That's like a run through of the story. In terms of my thoughts on the actual start of it, and the start of arguably Russell T Davies's second chance at running the show, obviously this comes with that this is not a new video. I didn't release this at the time. This is a few months after. It's clear, obviously now in hindsight, where it's sort of aimed to. Obviously the new stuff with Ncuti Gat was not out yet, but David Tennant's been and gone again. And I must admit, I think, in my pure opinion, the whole story is a bit rushed, in terms of they've incorporated, as I've said, this Star Beast comic, but penned by Pat Mills, into the story, and it's worked. But then he's tried to explain the end of Series 4, which, considering that's been nearly 10 to 13 years, I think it's 13 years, is it? Yeah, because around 2010 was the end of time, so 13 years probably of build up to get to Donna, and she just sort of goes, we just let go of this storyline and this plot thread, and it feels a bit underwhelming. I think as a viewer watching it, you're expecting something to happen, big to happen. Where does she die? Does she become a full-blown Time Lord? Does it turn out that Donna can now regenerate, similar to the Doctor and the Master and the Rani and other Time Lords? No, she just sort of dies. No, she doesn't. She sort of dies, and then she comes back, and then and then she lets it go, and it's all good. And I don't know. It's a questionable one. They do that and then they do the sort of thing of, they do go to the TARDIS. They introduce a new TARDIS, which, for the TARDIS review, from its standpoint, I think the TARDIS looks phenomenal. I think the new TARDIS looks brilliant. Really love it. I think it's so cool, and the fact that they've sort of bringing it on with Ncuti's kind of having that TARDIS on, I think is great. I sort of hope he has a new TARDIS himself, similar to how the Fourth Doctor has his TARDIS, has had kind of continued with Pertwee's TARDIS for a bit. Then he got, you know, his own TARDIS with the kind of interior, like the second console room in Series 14, or how, like, maybe similar to how kind of, like maybe how like Smith hadn't changed in TARDIS nearer the end of his reign. I think that would be nice for Ncuti, just to have something different, because personally I was sort of hoping that maybe Tennant would have his old TARDIS back, like the 10th Doctor TARDIS, but since they were very clearly trying to have Tennant as the 14th Doctor and the 10th Doctor separately, they couldn't marry the two, because I think it would be too close, because I think, as Russell T Davies has stated, especially with the clothing option, they're trying to make it seem that 10th Doctor Tennant's this one and 14th Doctor's that one, very separate, very not the same, meaning that to suggest the different characters, which makes sense, because, you know, David Tennant's 10th Doctor come out of the Time War, he's still kind of broken from those, he's still broken from Don and that sort of thing. 14th Doctor, Time War's been and gone, he's fixed it in the Day of the Doctor, but he's then watched Gallifrey to get destroyed again at the end of the Series 12. The Time's Children arc's been and gone in Series 12, which they reference later on in Wild Blue Yonder, which I'll talk about tomorrow in next video. And then they also talk about like there's also the sort of like implications of the flux and the destruction of most of the universe. So overall, I must admit, my opinions of this particular one, it's an interesting one. Was I sort of excited when I heard that Tennant was kind of coming back, and when at the end of the Power of the Doctor it was Tennant? Sort of. Did I kind of wish that they'd maybe just like done like a episode with the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor maybe, or just the 10th Doctor? Kind of. The idea of him being the 14th Doctor and the 10th Doctor sort of confuses things, and then when you add in the fact that he's also technically the 11th Doctor, in the sense that he regenerated back into himself in the Stolen Earth and Journey's End, you sort of kind of have this weird thing where it's like, the Doctor's become David Tennant 3 different times, despite the fact that one of those times was himself regenerating into himself, but you get my idea. Then I think the arc with Donna sort of not dying, and then they just sort of go, we just let it go, and the energy, like similar to her regeneration, just sort of leaves her and Rose. I think, again, it's sort of underwhelming. It sort of undermines the kind of emotional stakes at the end of Stolen Earth Journey's End, which, ironically, since Starbeast came out, I've rewatched, and I can't really watch the ending, knowing how it kind of pays off eventually. The final ending doesn't hit as hard with the memory wipe. That might just be me, but I just can't seem to get to that point again. It's just not the same. But overall, I must admit, I think I have to give this episode probably about a 5 or 6 out of 10, probably a 6 out of 10. Feeling a bit more generous. I think when it hits, it does quite well. I think the unit stuff's great. I think the new Ruth Mayley's character's great. I just think there were a few errors that they could have tried to tidy up and fix to make this episode stronger and maybe do better for the Starbeast. Though, as I've said, I've not read the actual original comic, so maybe I should do that, and then I can kind of draw a better comparison with it. Though this has been just my thoughts about the Starbeast. It'd be great to hear any of your thoughts. Hopefully going forward I'll review the next one, Wild Blue Yonder, and The Giggle, then Church on Ruby Road. Then I'll try and do a few more stuff, and since I've been starting to listen to Big Finish stuff, I'm going to try and incorporate talking about Big Finish and that sort of thing, so there'll hopefully be a lot more content on the way. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does help me out and help me to graft there's an interest in this sort of thing. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya.